Hi students, welcome back to computer class. Today we are going to continue our first chapter, that is part 3. In our first chapter we have discussed about different types of computers. That means we have discussed from abacus to the smartphone. So computers have changed with time to become an important part of our lives. We are discovering newer ways to use computers every day since they are becoming more powerful and compact. This has become possible due to the rapid development of technology in the last 100 years. Scientists have thus classified the development of computers into 5 generations based on the progress of software and hardware qualities. So next we are going to look about the 5 generations. That means the scientists have classified from abacus to the supercomputer or to the touch screen mobiles into 5 generations, and let us have a look on the major features of this 5 generations.
Generations of computers. Computers that we see and use today have evolved from the early computing devices. Since 1946, computers are classified into generations according to the technology used. The first generation computers had features like A. They used vacuum tubes. B. Physically, they were very big. They often occupied several floors in a big building and would weigh more than 25 tons. C. They used punched cards and paper tape for inputs and outputs. D. They used magnetic drums for memory. E. Speed was about 10,000 instructions per second. F. Wherever stored programs were used, they used machine language programs. The second generation computers had features like A. They used transistors. A typical second generation computer had about 10,000 transistors. B. They were somewhat smaller in size. They could fit inside a room. C. They were cheaper than the first generation computers. F. They used many components associated with modern computers: printers, storage, operating systems, etc. G. Their speed was about 30,000 instructions per second. H. They used high-level programming languages like Fortran and COBOL, which allowed programmers to specify instructions in words. The third generation computers had features like A. They used ICs, which consumed less power and produced less heat and noise. B. They were much smaller than the computers of earlier generations and could be fit on a table or a desk. C. They were more efficient and cheaper than the computers of earlier generations. D. They used keyboards for inputs and monitors for outputs. E. The third generation computers saw the use of the first microprocessor. F. Computers became accessible to the masses due to the decrease in size and price. G. Speed of these computers was about 5 million instructions per second. H. They could use very simple, high-level programming languages like BASIC. I. Different applications could be run at the same time. The fourth generation computers have features like A. They use microprocessors. B. They are much smaller than computers of earlier generations and could fit into a palm. C. They are much more efficient and cheaper than the computers of earlier generations. D. They use keyboards and mouse and various other devices to input data and monitors, printers, and other devices for output. E. They have the highest processing speed and memory size among all generations of computers. F. Supercomputers with processing speeds exceeding billions of instructions per second have been developed. G. They have wide-ranging applications and are extensively used in our daily lives. H. Different applications can be run at the same time. I. The use of telecommunications to link multiple computers has made possible the advent of Internet. J. Reduced size of the processor has made possible the invention of laptops and other handheld devices. K. Various operating systems with graphical user interface, that is GUI, have been developed. The fifth generation computers are the future computers, which would use artificial intelligence and would be able to take intelligent decisions as human beings.
Okay, so you have watched a video, and in that video you have seen the different features of the 5 generations. So let us have a look once more. The first generation computers, that is from 1946 to 1948, these are made using vacuum tubes technology. These are the vacuum tubes. Punch cards and paper tapes were used for input and outputs. They also used magnetic drums as storage device, and they could process about 10,000 instructions per second, and they need a large amount of electricity to work, and they occupy many space. Example of the first generation computers were ENIAC and EDVAC. Next is the second generation computer. They used transistors. The first generation computer were using vacuum tubes, and the second generation computer used transistors. A typical second generation computer had about 10,000 transistors. They used punch cards and paper tapes for input and outputs, and they also used magnetic drums. Their speed was about 30,000 instructions per second, and the transistors also enable computer to use lesser electricity than vacuum tube did, and the size also shrinks. Next is the third generation computers, that is from 1965 to 1970. They used ICs, that means integrated circuits. In the second generation they were using transistors, and now in the third generation the computers use ICs. An IC is a combination of thousands of small transistors and wires on a small chip. You can see the IC here. So IC is a combination of thousands of small transistors and wires on a small chip. They had much storage capacity than the earlier generation computers, and also they have high processing speed. The computers further shrank from second generation computers, that means the size reduces. They could process about 5 million instructions per second, and also the languages that we use in the third generation computers were high level programming language. And for example, the language that we use in the third generation is BASIC, and the example of third generation computers are IBM 360 and IBM 370. After that comes the fourth generation. They use microprocessors. In the third generation they were using ICs, and in the fourth generation they use microprocessor. They use also keyboard, mouse and other devices to input data and to get the output. Supercomputers with processing speed exceeds billions of instructions per second have been developed. These computers can be linked to different networks. Today all computers across the globe can be connected to the internet, and also the size also decreases. Various operating systems with GUI, that is graphical user interface, have been developed. In the fourth generation, they are small, efficient and cheap compared with the computers of earlier generation. Example of fourth generation computers are Macintosh computers. Next is fifth generation computer, that is present computers. These computers, and also the computer that will develop in the future. These computers will be able to understand patterns like human face and human speech. Now you can see in your mobile phones itself, you have lock with face recognition. These computers will be able to solve complex problems and take intelligent decisions. The next generation of computers can learn from instructions and data and thus improve themselves. So the main component used here is the artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is the attempt to make machines think and act like human. So by using this artificial intelligence, the machines can think and act accordingly. Robotics also play an important role in the 5th generation computers. And that's all about our 5 generation of computers. You have to go through this topic and read 2 or 3 times. Okay, and you have some homework, that is complete the exercises in your textbook. First one is you have to read your textbook 2 or 3 times and you have to note the different examples and also what are the main features in the each generations. And next is complete the exercises in your textbook itself from 1 to 4. And question number 5, question D and E, you have to write in your notebook. So hope you all have understood the lesson. Let us meet in the interactive session. Thank you. Have a nice day.